Stop me if you've heard this one before, but Christopher Bell wins again, and once again, he wins in dramatic fashion. We're going to cover that and a whole lot more from this race, so let's get into it. Coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. All right, C. Bell gets win number 12 on his career, and it ends up being 3 in a row for him, and that is the first time with this next-gen car that any driver has won 3 races in a row. So kudos to the man from Oklahoma, C. Bell. He has got to be your early favorite to get that NASCAR title. He is still at 63rd on the all-time win list. Now he's only, though, 1 behind Tim Richmond, 1 behind Dick Rathman, and 1 behind active driver Ryan Blaney. So he continues to move up that list. But if you don't have him as your early championship favorite, you at least have to have him as one of your championship 4 locked in already, at least this early in the season. But the other man who won a stage with him, Christopher Bell, wins a race and a stage, so gets a lot of points here today as well. But the other man that you have to add to that is one of the other killer bees, William Byron. William Byron wins a stage here, gets a little bit off sequence with the pit strategy, but is still able to manage to recover and have a good day. So early on in the season, and shout out to Glockpus from the Discord and from the chat, he mentioned this. He said by the All-Star break, we're probably going to be tired of hearing about Christopher Bell and William Byron, because without question, these 2 drivers have had the hottest start to the Cup season thus far. And I said killer bees because I actually am going to add one driver that a lot of people aren't talking about, because he's had some issues, but he's recovered from all those issues just about every week and still gotten a good finish, and that's Alex Bowman. If Alex Bowman can have another clean race, or ever have a clean race, he would be right up there in this conversation with them as well. Another day where he had some controversy and some drama to deal with, but he overcomes it and gets another top 10. We're going to get to that top 10 in just a minute. But right now, the killer bees, if you got a B in your name in the Cup Series, it seems to be going well for you, at least thus far. And so let's get to that top 10. C. Bell wins. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson 2nd and 3rd. Ends up being the 2nd closest, they said on the Fox telecast, finish in Phoenix history. And it was a barn burner. Kyle Larson all over the back of Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell at the end of the race. In fact, made a little bit of contact with Bell there at the end. Denny Hamlin on the outside there, just couldn't get it done. C. Bell wins this one. Great finish. Then in 4th place here, Josh Berry. Let's talk about him for a minute. He's in the best equipment of his career, and he is making the most of it. Last year had a lot of DNFs, a lot of those not necessarily his fault, things beyond his control for a lot of those DNFs. But if he can clean up those DNFs this season with this equipment, I expect Josh Berry to be a factor to at least be in the playoffs, and he showed it here today with this option tire, and that's what I wanted to jump onto next before I get to the rest of this top 10. Option tire was a huge talk this entire weekend, and it looks like for the most part it worked out, and here's why I think it did that. You saw a lot of varied strategy. In this age of stage breaks, or cautions for the stage breaks, I should say, it really limits the strategy because you shorten the race so much that everybody is almost kind of on the same strategy. But when you add a variable like this tire, it did bring in some different strategy for different people. Joey Logano, one of them that got off strategy, it ended up biting him, but some guys got off strategy and it ended up helping them. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute too. But because of that, we had these different strategies. So I do think the option tire for this race did help. And I know NASCAR probably isn't going to bring it for the final championship race, but I would really, really hope that they do at least consider bringing it for the championship race, and maybe bring an even softer tire because it will probably be colder by then. But I do think the option tire added a great deal of value to this race. So I hope that not only for the Phoenix finale, but races going forward, that they consider this tire for all the short tracks and even some of the road courses. Then we got 5th place man here, Chris Buescher, did a great job as always. William Byron, aforementioned one of the killer bees, ends up in 6th place and does get a stage win, recovers from that off-cycle caution where he tried to short pit, and they caught him in the pits with that caution. Alex Bowman right behind him in 7th place. The other killer bee I mentioned, Kyle Busch, off to a strong start this season as well. Add him to the list of killer bees. Number 9 man, Zane Smith, ends up outrunning all of his former Spire teammates. I don't know how everything went down over there on the 71 with the Spire Trackhouse deal, but it looks like they definitely gave up on Zane Smith way too early, whoever made that call, because he is looking like he is right at home now at front row. Chase Elliott ends up being your 10th place finisher. Another good solid run for the 9 car. Ross Chastain ends up 11th. Austin Dillon with a 12th place finish here. And then we got Joey Logano in 13th, and I wanted to talk about him real quick. Definitely had race-winning speed. Definitely had race-winning pace. But he got called on a restart early in the race for going below the yellow line before the start-finish line. And letter of the law, absolutely 100%, he did do that. Do you make that call, though? That was a little bit of a controversy, and here's kind of my take on it. To me, it's the equivalent of getting caught speeding, going over 5 miles an hour. Like, you're going 5 miles an hour and you get a speeding ticket type situation. Yes, letter of the law, you did break the law. Yes, you are going to get a ticket. However, if it was me in this situation and I was NASCAR, yes, letter of the law, you got the call right. I might probably give him a warning, be like, hey, we didn't like that restart, clean it up next time. I think that would have been the better approach, because the spirit of the rule is so that you don't block other cars behind you. He wasn't really blocking any other car behind him. He wasn't impeding progress of any of the other drivers, so it just seemed like one of those deals where the lead car, I don't think it really matters at what point the lead car dives down there, at least in that sort of situation where it was really chintzy. But NASCAR did get the call right. I would have liked to, personally, just my personal opinion, would have liked to seen a warning instead of a full-on penalty, because that penalty ended up getting him off cycle with the option tires, and it did cost him his best finish. Probably, like I said, had race-winning type of speed, probably had a top 5, top 10 car, and ends up where he ends up, which, of course, in that 13th position. Right behind him, however, was John Hunter Nemechek, and then Ryan Preece in the number 60, continuing his good start to the season when he finishes races, I should say, for the RFK guys. Now on to bad race, and we'll just start with that big wreck. I think the vast majority of these drivers were collected in that big wreck that I think the 54 was on the inside, and it just sort of caused a chain reaction after that from what I saw on TV. But it included SVG, Cole Custer, Brad Keselowski, Justin Haley, Chase Briscoe, Carson Hocevar, and Riley Herbst. So bad day for them. Also bad day for Daniel Suarez, a victim of circumstance. He got taken out, had a pretty good race car, it looked like, up until that point as well. And then also Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon shot himself in the foot there on pit road, but his team had the greatest strategy of all time. Talking about option tires, he had 2 sets at the end. He had the freshest tires of anybody in the field. And looked like he was in really good position. Probably was going to be out there 3rd or 4th on the restart. And then sped on pit road. Shot himself in the foot. Does recover to a 16th, which is not bad for the Kala gang over there. He did at least get him back up into the top 16. So got a decent points day out of it. But man, and I don't think they had race-winning speed. So that's why I'm saying the strategy was so good. And he was able to get him back up to the top 16. But man, what could have been? What could have been with that tire strategy that they were on? But it was not meant to be, so bad day for Ty Dillon as well. All right, here's how the points shake out after that one. William Byron continues to be your leader, one of the Killer Bees. And then the other Killer Bee, of course, Christopher Bell, now up to 2nd place. He is 13 points behind William Byron. Tyler Reddick, 22 points behind leader William Byron in 3rd place. Then you got Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott rounding out your top 5. Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch are your top 8 here. So Alex Bowman, like I said, one of the other Killer Bees. He continues to overcome adversity. If he can have a clean race, he's going to jump up there in the points as well, because he has been a fast car this season thus far anyway. 9 through 16 points-wise right now are going to be Joey Logano, Chris Buescher, Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, John Hunter Nemechek, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, and Ross Chastain. If the season ended today, would be your last man in to the playoffs. Outside looking in is going to be Todd Gilliland, Carson Hocevar, Eric Jones, Chase Briscoe, and Josh Berry. Chase Briscoe, another one of those drivers that had a bad day, started this race, I think 11th or so, or 12th in points, and ends up outside of the top 16 when all is said and done. Got his points back, but then had a bad day, and is back to outside of the top 16, so we'll see what comes of that from here on out. All right, that's all I got for you on this one. If you made it this far, would love to have your subscription. If not, I'll just keep making these things. If you're already subscribed, you know I appreciate you all as well. And have a good Monday. Peace.